activist, entrepreneur, and coach, podcast host. That's the newest addition to my title, and I'm super excited about it. I live in Western Massachusetts, and I love to inspire others to think carefully about what they are consuming in the textile department. So, like clothing, sheets, towels, household stuff, and then also just really thinking about how to um, kind of impart that thinking into other aspects of your life. So, thinking about what we use and what we need and what's going to give us that kind of confidence and happiness and contentedness in our lives without taking those things from others. So, enough about me. I'd love to know about you. So if you're here with me listening live, or if you're catching this as a recording, I do a live, what I call Tuesdays Textile Alchemy with Crispina, live right here on whatever platform you're watching me on. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. So all four of those places. And tell me, where are you tuning in from? And is textile upcycling something that you do in your life already? Is it something that you'd like to learn more about? Give me a little info, peeps. So today I want to talk to you about how stitching and recycling and upcycling can really add a level of self-care to your life, which is kind of an awesome piece of the work that I do. And it's something that I didn't really notice or really pay attention to until actually right around the beginning of the pandemic. I never really thought of my work, my business, what I do for my livelihood as a piece of what kept me sane on planet Earth. And it was very apparent, mainly from my audience. It was really brought to my attention by people just like you who were so grateful for this type of interaction, and also for being able to make the time and have the time during those lockdown months that we all endured together to be creative and to actually get into a process that they might not have otherwise had an opportunity to do, or kind of pushed to the back burner. I thought, well, maybe one day when I have more free time, I'll get to that. So I just want to shout out to a bunch of people I see here waving at me. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mary. Hello. I just saw somebody say, Carrie's with us. Hey, Carrie, you're a rock star. Someone from Germany is saying hello, and it's Arcticina, I think is how you pronounce that. So thanks for tuning in today from Germany. That's so cool. Okay, so we are, today is election day, and I would just like to encourage anybody who's in the United States to really do go and vote, please, because it's really important. And this actually plays right into something I'm going to share with you about textile upcycling. I have two teenage daughters, and my older daughter, Lucy, she just got her driver's license. She's 16, going to be 17 next month. And she often thinks that her input, her upcycling, recycling, thoughtful consumption of things doesn't matter. She's like, Mom, there's so many people on the planet who just don't care. Like, what I do doesn't matter. And I just, I get that. I understand why someone would feel that way. And I think that I also feel that way sometimes. I try to kind of keep it at bay. But if you don't use your voice, you won't know whether or not it matters because you're not using it. So if you do use your voice and you wind up with some success, or you wind up with some people listening, then your voice does matter. And I'm a firm believer in that. If you can convince one person to think about how they consume fabric in a different way and have it be fun and creative, and not like, we're going to hell in a handbasket, but more like, oh my gosh, we have so much around us. We have so much excess, especially in the United States, where rather than seeing it as garbage and a problem, see it as amazing tools and opportunities for creativity, right? So if you think your voice doesn't matter, try using it and then see what happens. Because there is a good chance that people will listen, especially if you're kind and you've really thought about how to share your thoughts and your ideas in a way that will encourage people to listen. And I'm just going to tell you a quick story going back when I started my business in 1987. I thought that too. I was like, well, actually, that's not true. I thought that I was going to change the world myself. I got this. I got the textile part, everybody. Don't worry. We're going to figure this out. And about 10 years in, I realized that there was no way that my one little company in Western Massachusetts was going to actually impact the world and all the people in it in a way that was going to encourage people to use their creativity to curtail that excessive consumption. Right. And that is when I wrote my teaching book and I started to really branch out. Right. So all of these things kind of go back to me going like, when you can create something, if it's something that you wear, if it's something that you put on your a blanket you put on your bed, if it's something that you can gift to someone, if it's a toy or a pair of mittens or whatever, if you can make something from nothing, you are making kind of like magic happen. Am I right? Does anybody else agree with that? Like, oh my gosh, right? Like it's so crazy. There are people out there in the world who have never made a thing. And you know, when I started my business, I was kind of not sure that people would listen. There was a lot of kind of resistance to my product offerings. They were made out of old clothing, and at the time, recycling wasn't really heard of. It wasn't like a household function as it is today. So, I look back over those last 30 years, 30 plus years, and I see that my voice actually does matter. And I have been able to really encourage a lot of people to use creative revisioning of things to have joy and really create things that bring them joy and then bring others joy and also reduce the impact of our walking on the planet. And Melissa Draper, Melissa, thanks so much for tuning in. Melissa says making is magic, and it really is. So um I just want to like sometimes I get going with these sessions and I'm just like, okay, like this long diatribe coming from me. I would like to know if there's something like Melissa just shared. For her, she feels like it is magical. It's like this transformation. It's kind of like baking a cake, right? You like mix the eggs and the milk and the flour and the vanilla and the sugar together and you put it in the oven and it's kind of like the soupy weird stuff and you pull it out and it's like a cake, right? Well, it's sort of the same when you're taking a pile of old clothing and you're kind of cutting and snipping and kind of collaging it together to make something new and beautiful. So there's all sorts of like empowerment and really like self-care that happens in that process. And as I was doing research to learn more about like the science behind these things, I learned that using your creative brain, so like the right side of your brain, for as little as 30 minutes a day can actually increase confidence and reduce stress and anxiety. Like it's scientifically proven. I am not a scientist. I am not like that's not my thing, but I love learning about like brain science particularly and just how that happens for people. The other thing that happens with textile upcycling, which I just love, is it kind of builds community as you go, right? Because where are you getting your materials? You got to think about that, right? You put maybe you ask your friends, hey, I'm making a quilt and I need some men's dress shirts. And if you have any that have torn or they're past their prime, let me know. I could use those. Well, then suddenly you have your friend's shirts in this quilt that's probably going to last a really long time. And you'll remember them and you'll think of them whenever you use that quilt. Maybe you're shopping at the thrift store and that's where you're finding your material. That's just fine. And you're going to think about that fun trip you took to that thrift store, wherever it might have been, where you found that really special shirt or piece of fabric or dress that you were able to repurpose. So there's stories, right, with everything that we create as textile upcyclers. And I feel like that is something that maybe gets overlooked, or certainly I've overlooked it in the past, where I just imagine that everybody has this like piece of their life, where the things that they choose to keep around them or to wear or to have in their homes have stories. And it's not that common, you guys. So if you have that and you're able to like remember and find joy in the memory of whatever experience it was to create that, maybe it's a sweater, a coat, pair of socks, whatever it is, it's another piece of joy that you're able to like experience, right? So I'm just going to read through some of these comments here. Making is freedom. I become an independent and autonomous. And this is from our friend in Germany. So I'm imagining that that is so cool. I would love to know more about what you're making. The Arcticina. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. What is it that you're making that gives you this freedom and independent autonomousness in your life? I'd love to learn more. And I have my friend Jody over here, and Jody's chiming in saying she loves the cake analogy. So if you just tuned in, my name is Crispina French. I'm a textile upcycling artist, activist, entrepreneur, podcast host. I'm having a summit, you guys. I'm super excited about the Rags to Riches Textile Upcycling Summit that is scheduled for April 12th through 14th. So 2023, it's a long way out, but I'm already starting to prepare for that. It's our second year, and we are completely changing up the format, you guys. This year, it's going to be free. So it's 3 days of awesome speakers teaching. The whole premise is that you can learn how to run a textile upcycling business that pays you really well, and that also nurtures the environment, nurtures your heart and soul, puts you in the middle of a community of support, and just makes the world a better place and you a happy person. So if you're interested in any aspect of that, if you know people who are, if you think you know somebody who should be a featured speaker at the summit, let me know. You can leave a comment right here in the comments on the feed. You can send me a direct message if that's a more appropriate way for you to communicate with me. Whatever works for you is 100% fine. But I want to go back to today's subject matter. And, I'm feeling a little anxious today because it is our midterm elections. And, I try not to be too political. I try not to actually step on toes. I like to welcome everyone. I like to make sure everybody's feeling included. But I have to say that this election here in the United States has me really worried as the parent of two teenage girls who are just starting out. They're kind of, seeking their fortune out into the world, and to think about the idea that they might not have the rights to choose what they want for themselves, whether, in reproductive care. Like, I think that's crazy. And I think that we can navigate the world no matter what is coming at us with kindness and astute listening and conversation and healthy debate. We don't need to be like throwing punches and being jerks and cutting each other down and not being positive. I don't think that helps anybody. And I hope that if you're in the United States, just vote blue, whatever you do. That's my thought. If you can, I hope that's not offensive to anyone. And if it is, I'm not going to say I'm sorry, because I just feel like it's so, so important. So Sina says, I make my own clothes free of any norms of the textile industry. I think that's awesome. And that's our friend from Germany, Arctic Sina. Thank you so much for letting us know about that. So going back to that self-care piece that this is the premise of today's 20-minute session here, is I just want to reiterate the importance of spending the time that we need to find that calm in our day. And sometimes, even just giving yourself literally 10 minutes to sew something. I love to sew. The other thing that I just want to share, I have been doing what I do for such a long time that it's always been a business for me. Like, everything that I textile upcycle is, I'm always thinking, how long did it take to make? How much can I sell it for? Is it the right size? Is it the right color? Is it going to be appealing to kind of like the market out there? Right. So one of the things I find myself doing that I love is knitting. And it's kind of funny because most people feel like or most people who see my work just assume that I know how to knit. And I learned how to knit pretty recently, and I like to knit hats because they're really quick and satisfying. You get to like twist this long piece of string around in this certain order, and all of a sudden, boink, you have a hat. So um, I'm actually going to be starting a sweater really soon, and I just find it so peaceful. So in my mornings, I get up and I have a cup of a tea with my husband in the morning, and he'll sit and read the paper, and I'll knit. And we'll just chat a little bit and have like a nice kind of uh, beginning to our day together. So, if anybody's looking for that kind of calm and peacefulness, I recommend knitting if that's something that's appealing to you. And if not, sometimes it's just as simple as sewing on buttons or doing a piece of embroidery. If sewing's not your thing and you find that really frustrating, because I know there are people out there who do a jigsaw puzzle. Something that's not screen oriented is really a good thing, just to let your brain kind of calm and find peace. And literally 10 minutes will change your day. I would like to know from you if you have any other suggestions for self-care through making. Um, Optimism is something that I'm well grounded in, and I hope that it's not like ridiculous, but I don't think that it is. I feel like being an optimistic textile upcycling entrepreneur really helps me stay positive and keeps me from spiraling down, the rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, we're going to hell in a handbasket. So if you can spend that 10 minutes just thinking about like the blessings that are showering you and how, things are good in the world, that actually does have ripples, and it will actually impact you and the people around you. So I hope that this little textile um, Tuesday's Textile Alchemy session is helpful to you. And I also hope that you will tune in next Tuesday, also at 2:30. So every week, 2:30 on Tuesday, I'm right here live with you. And I also want to invite you, if you'd like something in the meantime that might be a little easy, you can listen to it in your car or as you're doing your stitching. I have a podcast that's called Rags to Riches Textile Upcycling Podcast. And new episodes come out each Monday. If you're a member of Stitcherhood, which is my online community for textile upcycling entrepreneurs, you get access to those episodes on Sunday mornings. So check that out. It's everywhere, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. I don't even know where else. There's a ton of places where you can find it. If you have trouble finding it, let me know. Maybe there's a platform we need to add to that mix. But this current episode it was just mind blowing for me. I interviewed a woman. Her name is Dr. Tierney Thies. And she started out as a marine biologist and was like kind of horrified with the microplastics that she was discovering in the oceans. And she decided to kind of like change her focus to create fabrics that would address that problem using the indigenous wisdom that from all over the world. Like indigenous cultures from all over the world all have created fabrics for thousands of years, and she is collecting all of that knowledge and putting a modern spin on it with her science background and creating fabrics that are actually all natural, biodegradable, and amazing. So check out this episode, and I feel like we're all in this together, and it's gonna be a beautiful rest of our time here on this planet, and we have the ability to create that together. So thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. I look forward to seeing more of you. And if you have questions for me about different subjects that might have, we could address in any of these sessions. I just had a question come in from a listener who was asking about how to best donate clothing or get rid of clothing that is no longer useful to them. Not, thrifts, not purchased, like secondhand thrift, not worthy, like torn, stained, damaged in whatever way. So we're going to talk more about that next week. And in the meantime, have a great week, and I'll see you then.